Hi people, how are you guys doing? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. It is Sandra here and I'm back again with another video. So this video actually held quite a high interest in me because I am a sociologist. In sociology on here, I'm curious what did a colleague of mine do? What did a colleague of mine do? Why are you race baited? All of that, right? So this is Charlie Humiliates race baiting sociology students. Okay, and this came out 8 months ago, but I'm gonna be getting into it only just now, and I really hope you guys are gonna want to be on this with me. So please do stick around from the very start to the very end. Okay, if this is your first time coming on here, just know that you're highly welcome, and I really do appreciate your presence on here. Okay, so yeah, let's get right into the video. All right, people, let's just get right into the video.
Laws had a lasting impact on the black community in the United States?
Some, and that's a good question. So if you correlate all the impact of Jim Crow and slavery, I would say that you could generously say 26% single motherhood in the black community in the 1960s. So about 26% of all black babies born in the 1950s and 1960s were born to a single mother. Now it's 77%. So I would ask you, why did it jump 50 points, 50%, since the Civil Rights Act as America got significantly less racist?
So that's fine. I don't know why it jumped. Who cares? But
I do.
Jim Crow.
No,
I do care. Excuse you.
The only lasting impact that slavery had on the U.S. was that less black families had fathers.
No, not necessarily. But have you ever known anyone that's owned a slave?
No, but I know a few presidents who did.
You know them personally? So you know anyone that was ever a slave?
Well, no, because
He's not even sounding so sure of himself, to be honest.
So okay, I don't know anyone who was a slave. So it had no impact?
No, it had some impact. The question is, did it have an impact that is measurable and significant enough now in 2021, where we saw a key metric that influenced the livelihood of the black community, like single motherhood rate, that as America got less racist, all of a sudden now 77% of black babies are born without a father, where before it was 26%. And I suppose the question is this, because this is the question about systemic racism, right? What law that is in practice today actively discriminates against black people?
Okay.
So here's what I would say to that. The idea of capitalism and America, like you said, is it doesn't matter who you are, show me what you got, is fresh start. So what would happen if you had like 150 years in a country for your family to build wealth, to own a house, to have a job, to get college education, for kids, to build generational wealth? And then you took another family who didn't have the opportunity to do any of that for 150 years, and then set them off on the same even starting point. Is that really an even starting point, and would that not result in some kind of systemic disadvantage for those people?
The black middle class was the fastest growing demographic in the 1940s and 1950s, until the Great Society Act and that intervention. It's very tempting to do what you're doing. And I'm not faulting you for it, because you've probably been propagandized to believe it. And that's okay, because I think you're actually a victim in this case, because you've been misled to want to believe things you never lived under, never understood,
He said he's a victim.
and that I think you are partially seeing had a disproportionate impact in the world that you're living in today. So for example, if that were to be true, then first-generation immigrants would not be able to quickly make good choices and move up the ladder in this country, which I think we have some first-generation immigrants here tonight. Now, let me say this, that this idea that America is systemically racist to the core would also be quickly debunked by the fact that more blacks have legally immigrated to America since the 1980s than ever were here brought as slaves. Over 2 million blacks from the Caribbean and from Nigeria and from Western Africa have come here to America. So the question is, why is it that in every statistic that you could probably rattle off, are black people doing worse than white people? What is it? Well, I would point to the fact that fathers are not in the home, because it was 26% of black females in the 1960s were single mothers. Now it's 77%. If you look at the Brookings Institution, a liberal think tank, there are 3 things you need to do to stay out of poverty in America. Number 1, graduate high school.
Yeah.
Well, because of public sector unions and the dominance of our government schools, that's harder than ever in far too many communities. Not just black communities, not just Hispanic communities. The second thing, get a job, any job. And the third thing is to obviously not to commit crimes, but to try to get married before you have children. And so some of what I believe has contributed to the downfall of some of these communities has nothing to do with white people with the neck on black people. Instead, it's the following. Fathers no longer being in the home, the rise of sexual anarchy that came in post-1960s liberalism that removed this idea of sex being confined to a marital relationship to be gratuitous and everywhere. All of a sudden you've seen an increase in not just the birth rate, but the single motherhood rate and abortion alongside of it. I would just ask this question, I'm just curious. How much do you think outputs are based on people's decisions, based on the advantages they're born into?
I mean, as someone who's taken Introduction to Sociology, your life is greatly influenced by what the conditions you're born into. But I promise this will be the last thing. Just, you say there's less fathers in the home of, many black families,
Yes.
and that's the issue. So what do you think is keeping fathers out of the home in those?
It's a great question.
Do you think it could be over-policing and police arresting, like,
We went through this,
disproportionately?
everybody.
Do you think it could be law enforcement disproportionately enforcing laws in black neighborhoods and arresting more black males than any other demographic?
So blacks are actually under-arrested and under-policed per the percentage of crimes they commit. We talked about some of those numbers. But let me tell you one thing in particular. In the Great Society Act, we decided as a civilization to subsidize single motherhood. In the 1960s, we told black women you no longer need to be married to have children, you can get married to the government. And we saw a dramatic escalation and increase of the deterioration of the nuclear family and a replacement of that of the nanny state and the welfare state. And I would say this, that every single activist group that steps up, that talks about systemic racism and oppression, if you look at the data, purely the data, if there is a movement to put black fathers back in the home and to try and challenge the sexual anarchy that came in the post-1960s and had a more prudent and pious view of sexual relations in America, which is a very unpopular view, by the way, for most Americans, but it's true that before the 1960s, sexual relations were, at least culturally, supposed to always be confined to marital relationships. The more gratuitous that we have been in trying to catalog it in media and in pop culture and in Hollywood and, yes, in schools, then all of a sudden you have seen people say, well, why do I need to get married for that? Marriage is the bedrock institution, and strong families create strong communities, which create strong civilizations. And this is why immigrant communities that have come to America, and first-generation immigrants, they're able to move so quickly up the socioeconomic ladder because they might not have wealth, they might not have big bank accounts, they might not own a lot of land, but they have the thing they know that will keep them together, which is a family that will not be broken up at any means necessary. I'll finally say this. Let me just say this. No, I want to thank you for coming because it took courage to ask that question. I'm just going to ask you to do one thing. Please forget everything you learned in Introduction to Sociology 101 because it was likely all garbage. So thank you so much.
His closing remark, I was actually about to say, like, if he hadn't said it, I would have said it. I was about to say, I may as well just unlearn everything I learned in, like, Sociology 101 because, honestly, like, what is this? It's sociology student. I actually feel like, this student, I don't think he should have been like the representative of the class, to be honest, because he didn't seem to have a lot of facts. As in, even the things he was saying, he wasn't saying it with such a strong force. Like, he wasn't set in his ways, right? I feel like this is what he knows. These are the facts he knows, and I feel like he seemed open to learning because he wasn't. I don't know. There's just the way he was, right? There's just the way his demeanor was. He wasn't seeming to be closed-minded or closed off of learning, right? Like, he had his facts, right? And he had his questions, and he was throwing it at Charlie, and Charlie was giving him like maybe his research facts as well, and it seemed like he was receiving it, right from the very stance where he was like, who cares? I'm like, I do care. You should care as well. You should care to know, okay? Because these are like these may seem like little facts, but they could accumulate and be something really important, right? The word here in the video used humiliate, right? I don't really think he humiliated him, right? Because first off, most of the people who were in the room were his peers. Honestly, most of them would have same level knowledge or less or just slightly higher knowledge as he did. So you can't really say, humiliate. And even the approach that Charlie used wasn't humiliating. I don't even feel like Charlie's intent was to humiliate him, because actually this is like a professional student conference, and I think like maybe they're like freshers, right? So I mean, there's only so much he knows, there's only so much he could have learned, and definitely that seemed like an enlightening stage. Like the stage just seemed so open to learning, right? Like learn and unlearn what needs to be unlearned, right? And then you learn what needs to be learned, right? So I don't really think he humiliated him. I don't think anybody was humiliated. Actually, I feel like people learned and people were enlightened, and just, yeah, they were just, they were shown something different, to be honest. But this was actually very interesting. I don't know if maybe because I'm a sociologist, but it was actually interesting just listening to like the back and forth, and just hearing his answers to these questions. And yeah, basically, I did enjoy this actually. Thank you all so much for joining me. I want to know what you all think about this down in the comment box. Please do not hesitate to put down your comments. Let us talk, let us chat. If this is your first time coming on here, you are highly welcome. Please do not hesitate to hit the subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up, and share this video to a lot more people, because it's really gonna help my channel, and actually share this video to a lot more people, because you do not know who would love to see this video. And basically you'll be killing two birds with one stone, right? So on to the very next one, people. Let us keep on staying safe and healthy. Bye.